afternoon, Lenesik.
Good afternoon, Adekunle. Good to be here, finally.
Good to have you on the show, finally. Quickly, without wasting your time, please, can we meet you?
My name is Mazi Afam Osigwe. I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria, to the glory of God. I was courted by in 1999, and I started my practice with Chike Co., from where I set up my law firm, initially known as Afam Osigwe Co., now known as Law Forte. Became a notary public in 2007, and I have a 2 master's degree, one from University of Jos and another from Center for International Legal Studies, Austria, collaboration with Glasgow University, Austria. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. I'm also an associate member of the American Bar Association, member of the International Bar Association, past General Secretary of NBA, past Chairman of NBA Abuja branch, a past member Council of Legal Education, a life member of the Body of Benchers, and also the principal partner of Law Forte. I'm in private legal practice, and I live and practice here in Abuja.
Thank you so much, Lenesik. That's quite a lot. Well done, Lenesik. So quickly, can I ask, what is the motivation behind you studying law or becoming a lawyer?
Well, I was in a program yesterday, and I mentioned that my reading law was quite accidental. Accidental in the sense that I never set out to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a medical doctor. But my poor performance in the sciences and the maths ensured that I had no future in reading medicine, so I had to opt for law as a last option. But I haven't read law and practiced law these 23 years. I've realized that I couldn't have done any other thing but a lawyer. So I'm glad I read law. And then in reading law, I realized that I could make a whole lot of changes. I could be of assistance to people. I could offer advice to people that could be life-changing, that could bring succor to people. And I could also be of assistance or help to those in need who may not be able to afford legal services. And I could be in a position to make some change and make an impact in the society, because that is what being a counsel makes me do, and that's why being an advocate for others makes me do. Also providing advisory services. There's a whole lot of things. And so these are my passion in the lawyering business.
Thank you so much, Lenesik. And if I may ask, in your formative years as a legal practitioner, who can you say was a jurist you actually look up to, that you admire so much?
Probably was Oputa. That would be Oputa, probably because he was the only jurist I had the opportunity of meeting and hearing speak to us when he attended one of our bar dinners or law weeks in the university. And then he was oft quoted by my lecturers. And I saw him as a living sage, in the practice of law. So he was my idol. Though I never wanted to be a judge, but he represented to me what an ideal judge would be. An encapsulation of intelligence, knowledge, oratory, elocution, and then justice, because in some of the judgments which I was conversant with then in university, they always emphasize on the importance of justice triumphing over resort to technicalities. And I always thought that the courts then was much more concerned, and the practitioners then were much more concerned with doing justice. And so I looked up to him. And then on the foreign scene was Lord Denning, because they quoted him a lot, and I thought it was the greatest. But then I've come to realize there were also many greats in the legal profession. And of course, coming into practice, my principal, late Chief Chike SAN, for me he was a symbol of gentleman in the practice of law. He was very good, both in writing, oratorial skill and his writing skills. And because I worked with him, he was my idol. And then we used to see in those days Chief F.R.A. Williams and many more. So we looked at those who had made a huge success out of the practice of law were my idol. And those who had excelled, who had gone ahead of us. And I wanted to be like them. Those who had made changes in society, whose names meant a lot to people who had need for legal services. So I looked up to a lot of them. And then also people then like Bamidele Aturo, people who, by dint of hard work, by being resolute, Femi Falana, of course, Gani Fawemi, were people I looked up to, people who I felt, despite all odds, even when they were standing alone, stood for what they believed in and went for them. These were people I looked up to.
Thank you so much.
I still do, though some of them may be gone now, I still see them as be representative of what the legal profession should be all about.
Thank you so much, NMC. And quickly, if I may ask also, what do you think of mentorship and pupillage for young lawyers? Like you have rightly mentioned, these are great names that you look up to, and I'm sure one way or the other you must have had conversation or interaction with them. So what would be your own view of pupillage and mentorship for young lawyers?
Now, mentorship, those are two different things. Pupillage, I will not lay much emphasis on, not that I underscore is important, because I've noted that over 80% of lawyers who come out of law school every year, they never had the opportunity of undergoing pupillage in a law firm or under any lawyer. And so thinking that it's only through pupillage that people learn will be limiting it to these other individuals who, for want of a place to work, not for want of willingness or the zeal to work, are unable to do that pupillage as we know it. So mentorship comes in to fill in the gap, because whether you're working with any person or the other one or not, if you have a mentor, if you have somebody who mentors you, who you can choose on your own, who may choose you, or who may be chosen for you by virtue of your belonging to an association or finding yourself somewhere, who helps to guide you, to whom you can go to for advice, for counseling, to direct you, and also to encourage you when your spirit flags, when you feel you can't do it. So for me, considering our inability to absorb the large number of lawyers being produced every day, I think mentorship has come in to fill in the gap, becoming much more important than pupillage, because not everybody can have it. And for those who have the opportunity of getting pupillage, the pupillage should also encompass mentorship, because you can be a pupil counsel in a ministry, in a law firm, without getting somebody mentoring you on the right way to proceed. So you may still lose the benefits that mentorship would have afforded you. So considering our situation, which does not do justice to the larger majority who are unable to get pupillage, I think we focus on mentorship. And in my little ways, in every little opportunity, I've tried to be part of the mentorship, I've tried to mentor people. And indeed, I'm a member of the mentorship committee of the body of ventures, even though we're still trying to develop programs on how to develop mentorship for young lawyers and for those in the universities. I believe that when it is finally approved and there's a working document for implementation, we'll be able to do it on a larger scale, and then many more young lawyers would have had the benefit of being mentored by senior lawyers, by persons they look up to or who have gone ahead of them, and who, by dint of the experience and what they may have encountered in the course of life, may be able to direct them on how best to fare in this profession.
Thank you so much, NSC. And that brings me to my next question. Most young lawyers have been saying there is no need to join the NBA, that NBA is not doing anything. I hold the contrary view anyways. So, but as a one-time chairman of NBA Abuja branch, and also a one-time general secretary of the national, I would really like to hear your thoughts on this. What is NBA doing for the young lawyers? And also, please bear in mind, some of the argument out there is that looking at the constitution of the NBA as it is, just one, which is the assistant, I think, general secretary, that only a young lawyer can actually vie for. And even that, most times, you will see that senior lawyers of 10-year post score are the ones contesting as assistant general secretary. That what can be done or what should be done for us to have young lawyers involved in the NBA activities, and how do we bring young lawyers on board on the NBA?
I find your question very interesting, even as I consider it being multi-barreled. Now, multi-barreled in the sense that people confuse what NBA may or may not do for them with the ability to participate in the running of the NBA. So I'll go with the first one about what does NBA do for us. Now, when I ran for chairman of the branch, that was the principal reason why I chose to run, because there was a large disconnect by young lawyers who felt that in meetings they were not able to speak. Most of the issues discussed did not concern them. The issues that concern them, the bar does not care about them. And it's just about a bar for the older lawyers, run by older lawyers, for the benefit of the older lawyers. And I ran for chairmanship then, and interestingly, the young lawyers bought more into my vision and were the ones who propelled me to victory as chairman. And we tried to address certain welfare issues. Now, part of the reason I realized why many lawyers feel or ask what does the NBA do for me is because they feel that the bar is not there for them. The bar does not address issues challenging them in their places of work, in the places where in their own workplaces where they have them, welfare issues concerning them, the excesses of security agencies as it concerns them in trying to render services to clients, and then the service delivery in government offices like the Corporate Affairs Commission, the courts, and other places where lawyers go to enter the trademarks registry, just to mention a few. So they feel that there are challenges they face, obstacles being mounted on their way, and the NBA does not do anything or do much in that regard. And so when you attend meeting, we just talk about things and do not address these issues. And we tried our little best then to address them. And I think the NBA from my days as branch chairman has greatly improved. You know, we try to introduce continuing legal education where somebody will talk to us at the meetings, because we realized that there was need to continue to equip our young ones, to have people talk about areas of practice, to broaden their knowledge. And we introduced that in a meeting from 2011 when I was chairman till about when I left, and it's been a continuing practice. And then we organized teaching sessions with SEC and other organizations for the benefit of lawyers and at no cost to them. And I feel that when NBA steps into this gap, and we also set up an ad hoc committee on CAC to interface with CAC to address the service delivery issues we kept getting with them, and we recorded huge successes in doing that, engaged with the courts in improving service delivery in a courtroom environment for lawyers. And just to mention a few, like I said. So when it comes to the NBA currently, when I became general secretary, these issues were still there. Many lawyers had that disconnect. They see NBA as one behemoth that just collects practice fees from them and dues at the branches and cares nothing about them. And so that administration, thankfully, was able to introduce stamp and seal, which for people in Abuja, it may not valid, but for lawyers practicing in certain provincial areas is a big deal. So the stamp distinguished them, and for some, as given by testimony by them during NEC meetings, they were able to charge more because the seal distinguished them, showed those who were real lawyers, and they took advantage of affixing that stamp to charge more. And then for the first time, the health insurance was introduced. And it was these changes, some of these changes were driven by understanding that lawyers asked this question because they believe they had derived no welfare benefits for belonging to this association. Exactly. And when you feel an association does nothing for you, you don't want to be involved. It doesn't care about you. So it was introduced. Life insurance was introduced. People may argue that the life insurance was only for people to benefit when you are gone. But then it was some kind of succor to one's family if one were to pass on. And you could also choose the option of health, and that was introduced. And then slashing of conference fees for young lawyers was equally done. And to also show prudential management of the funds of the association, that administration was able to complete the MBA house. And we made so many interventions, mentorship programs, training programs, funding of the Young Lawyers Forum. Because, like I said, the thinking being, get more involved. And we've actually also negotiated rates with hotels, which gave a discount, special discount rates to lawyers. The whole idea being, when you know that your association is able to get you these benefits, you know that the association is looking out for you, it's trying to get advantages for you, and to enable you practice law and live your life with some form of dignity and respect, then that less and less persons will ask that question. And this has continued, reaching a peak with the Oluwapata administration, and I believe it will go much higher with the current administration of YC Mekel. Now, the other question you asked, you talked about young lawyers participating. Yes, sir. When I tried running for NBA president in 2018, one of the key things I talked about was deepening participation in the bar. It is not only young lawyers, mind you, that complain that they do not have any role to play at the bar. Those in ministries, the law officers, those they call members of the official bar complain too. Persons living with disability complain too. Women also complain that are not able to attain leadership positions. And I'm glad I was part of the Constitutional Amendment Committee that reviewed the NBA Constitution, which thankfully was approved at the annual general meeting in Port Harcourt, which gives laws for young lawyers to be part of the National Executive Council of the NBA, now Executive Council of the NEC. The thinking being, you can't be making people pay dues and practice fee and deny them participation in the decision-making body. And that was done.
Thank you, sir.
And then was also certain ages was lowered both at the branch level and at the national level to enable them to participate. And we went further to also propose an amendment which was also approved to enable persons in the official, but you can't say, look, hey, you can only participate in the branches, but you cannot hold office at the national level. And the thing was, you can't do this, that's wrong. And we made that proposal at the committee level, and it was also approved to enable them run for certain offices. But considering the full-time nature, almost seeming full-time nature of the NBA presidency and general secretary and maybe treasurer, those offices were left for persons who were in private practice, who would be able to. And then the requirement to be a NEC member before running for most of the offices was removed. You must remove obstacles. You must, as much as possible, give a level playing field to give a sense of belonging to all members of the association so that they can participate. It's an ongoing process. We can't get it all right in one day. But the whole idea to show a forward thinking to enable persons from different strata of the association who may not be, who are differently abled to participate. And there's also slots reserved for persons living with disabilities, also in the NBA constitution, to be members of NEC. And on and on. And even on the religious level, the last TTCP also made an improvement of also providing praying rooms for people to pray during interfaith praying areas. You keep improving. And we may not always do things, I mean, the NBA may not always do to the satisfaction of lawyers. But it is important for people to make these complaints, make these suggestions, and for a responsive leadership to consider them as imperative and worthy of attention and put measures in place to accommodate them. Maybe someday we'll get to the position where positions meant for young lawyers, for people 5 years and below, will not be contested for by persons who are 10 years post-call.
Thank you so much.
It may require some amendment together, but I'm sure ultimately we'll get there, because if we say this position is for young lawyers and it's written into the constitution, probably will do that. And I never thought about it. But now that you asked the question, the thought suddenly occurred to me.
In fact, no, I raised
could be
I tried
the possibility of a way of securing it for young lawyers.
Exactly. I raised it at the AGM in Port Harcourt.
Oh.
If you remember, I raised it. But my questions were in 2 parts. So you actually addressed the other level.
I must have missed it.
Yes, so and I'm hoping with this. I'm hoping with this.
I mean, maybe then I didn't fully understand, but now I do, and I realize if I'm in a position to make a proposal, you can be very certain that I will push.
Thank you so much, NSC.
It doesn't make sense to say young lawyers should be assistants, and then you have somebody 15 years post-call come and take it.
That has been
then just like giving one thing with one hand and taking it with another.
Exactly.
Thing. So I think it's
thank you so much,
it's an important point to know.
Thank you so much, NSC. So back to outside MBA now, back to the practice. I really wanted to share with your audience now, if there is I just want to, is there any case you've actually handled personally, maybe pro bono, maybe commercial transaction that you've done and it got you fulfilled, and you could look back to and say, yes, this case is actually a case that got me fulfilled as a legal practitioner. Do you have any of those cases?
I think it was Chinua Achebe who was once asked, which of your books do you love most? And he said it would be unfair to ask a father which of his children he loved most. But he said if you were to find him reading any of his books, it would be Arrow of God.
Okay.
I said it would be Arrow of God. One case, I've done quite a number of many cases, but there's one that whenever I remember it, it gives me great joy. Not that the other ones don't give me joy.
I understand, sir.
And mind you, it was an appeal I did at the Supreme Court, and incidentally, it was a matter that I was introduced to by my very good friend Musba Adetunmi, great guy. That's a subject for another day. And so it was a case of a death sentence appeal to the Supreme Court, concurrent findings by High Court of Ekiti State and the Court of Appeal sitting in Ibadan convicted the man of armed robbery. And I came in at the Supreme Court stage, and I did that appeal. It was supposed to be a formality. Oh, you take over this appeal, just do it for me. I don't want to do it again. When upon reading it, I became convinced in my spirit that the appellant was innocent, that there was no basis to have convicted him in the first place. And I couldn't sleep. It was merely to just touch up the brief of argument which he had earlier filed, propose amendments to it, and I couldn't sleep. And I had to amend the notice of appeal and did it in my own way, and I had to make the argument in my own way, highlighted areas that showed that the man was wrongfully convicted, that the identification parade, that the identification process that fingered him as a robbery, as an armed robber, was wrong and faulty. And that the evidence of the key star witness who put him in the center of the crime was unreliable. And the Supreme Court agreed with us and freed him. And the fact that we were able to give life to a man against whom there had been 2 concurrent judgments meant a whole lot to me. And it gave me great joy that I could do that, and it was a pro bono matter. But the fact that we could do that, and the apex court in the land could look at it and say, look, the High Court and the Court of Appeal was wrong. They ought not to have relied on this evidence to convict and sentence this man to death. Till today, till tomorrow, still gives me great joy. And I hope that someday I'll meet the young man and say to him, God was surely on your side. And not many people would have yeah, because the other, I forgot to say why I said, let me say why I said this. There were 2 other persons who were equally sentenced to death. And before his own appeal came to the Supreme Court, the one I argued, the other 2 appeals had been dismissed and the death sentences upheld. Same facts, same identification, but we were able to get him. So it means a whole lot of me. And the young man's name is Oluwatoyi Ebenezer. And I'm very glad that that appeal was allowed by the Supreme Court. And I also hope maybe there's an opportunity to also appeal to the Ekiti State government to exercise its prerogative of mercy, since this last judgment has shown that the identification process was faulty, which means that the way the other persons were equally identified could not have been right. Also consider granting them pardon and freeing them, because the trial may not have met all the requirements needed to justify a death sentence on this gentleman.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was a good one. Thank you so much. So on the note of finality now, I would like you to advise our young lawyers out there and also other legal practitioners working. What would be your word of advice for those that desire, to meet up with it, to rise through the rank of, and also to meet the rank of senior advocate of Nigeria, or even those that do not desire the rank but want to live a fulfilled life as a legal practitioner? What would be your word of advice to them?
I always say to people, when you're a legal practitioner, the sky is your limit. There are a whole lot of things you can do. But the most important thing to note is, in your life, set goals for yourself. Have a vision. And always tell yourself you're not in competition with any person. Do not feel pressured by the success of other persons to feel that you have failed. And even if you have met some setbacks, don't let them define you. Don't let them defeat you. Keep on trudging or keep on moving. Ultimately, success will be yours. And be the best of what you can. And being the best does not mean you're trying to best another person, but achieving the goals you've set for yourself. Starting out may not look very good in many cases. First of all, you look as if you're forsaken, you made a mistake reading law, God has been very unkind to you. Why is God punishing society? Nobody likes you, you don't have a family. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, light comes at the end of the tunnel. You may be passing through a tunnel that appears dark. Never you give up. I came to Abuja in the night because I never thought I would be a senior advocate. I thought I would just practice law and survive somehow. I squatted at some point. I had to sleep on the floor in a friend's house. But I was determined to make a success of my legal practice and see where God has taken me. And I'm not suggesting that those who may not have got to the point I think I have got, that God has forsaken them, but just to say that determination and grace of God do a whole lot to change you. And you may not know where you're going unless you're there. You can't get where you're going unless you know where you're going. Which is why I say set a goal for yourself. Have a vision, work on it, and above all, always improve yourself. Always improve. Do not be content to say, look, I've had it, I've written bar finance, I'm not going to do anything again. The dynamics of legal practice for those who want to practice law, whether you're in-house or your private legal practice or offering regulatory advisory services, whatever, keep improving yourself. You will never go wrong.
Thank you so much, Yonesik. It's been a wonderful time, and we've had a very, very educative session with you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so very much, Adekunle, for your persistence that I should do this interview. And for the wonderful questions you've asked me. And I urge you to keep it up. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much, sir.
At great cost and inconvenience yourself, you're doing this work. Interviewing lawyers to bring different perspectives to our colleagues out there. And keep it up. May the good Lord always give you the good desires of your heart.